Structure.
Structure. Okay.
Discipline.
Discipline. Anything else? Any other words? I mean, words are fine because words convey more than a few sentences sometimes.
Evolve as you
Evolve. I quoted people. I didn't say it was evolved. Let me just be very careful when I say that. I'm not saying it's evolved. I just quoted people as saying it is evolved.
Cultivate.
Cultivate. Very nice. Anything else?
Maybe more emphasis on the sound structure rather than melody.
Very nice. Very, very nice. More emphasis on the, could I say on the,
Structure and sound and
so can I say on the melodic side? I'm just trying to, and rather than the lyrics.
rather than the lyric and word.
more focus on form than on. Is what he means.
He didn't say form and
I
content.
said
Okay, he just said more focus on melody rather than lyric. Because by saying form and content, you're saying lyric is the only content of music. So you should be very careful. Spiritual, divinity,
Intellectual.
Intellectual. Anything else?
one difference probably.
Basically, you know what? All these are the words why everybody will run away from Carnatic. Right? I mean, actually, look at it. All the words thrown in here are, my goodness, why would I even listen to folk music that is like this? It doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway.
Yeah, one difference probably classical music as an organist, as it evolved, the focus was very tightly on evolving it as a musical form. But probably if you look at folk, for example, the focus are probably more on the other functional and utility aspects.
Okay. Then taking off from what you said, what is the intent of Carnatic music then? I'm just taking off from what you said. I am not building this argument. I agree with you. First of all, I agree with you. The fact that more academic. Sir, do you agree, sir? More academic. So then why am I singing classical music? I just want to just give you one small thing here. There was this very, very well-known scholar, ethnomusicologist, Harold Powers. And about many years ago, I had asked him this question when he was in Chennai. I said, what makes something classical and something folk? And he only said one thing. He said, as a musical form goes up in the strata of society, it becomes more and more classical. As it remains lower strata of society, it remains folk. I'm just trying to throw that in over here as a point of discussion. I'm not passing comment, but this is actually what he told me, which at that point of time was honestly a shocker, because you perceive it as being evolved, right?
But does that have a bearing on the appeal of either classical or folk?
Yeah, probably does. Probably does. But we'll get to that. So anything else, or can I try and get this together?
Just one question. You're talking about social strata. Similarly, what about cultural differences? When you sing, is a totally uninitiated person able to perceive it as classical, or does he think it's some primitive form?
When a person uses the word ethnomusicology, for example,
Sorry?
when you use the word ethnomusicology, for example, even in academics, ethnomusic, the fact of the matter is it is something, first of all, different. You're immediately perceiving it. The history of the whole perception comes from the fact that it is different from what is accepted as accepted musical forms in our social consideration. Right? Similarly, when a Western classical musician listens to even Carnatic music, Hindustani music, very rarely will you hear a practicing musician call it classical music. Even a Western practice. To him, classical music only means one thing. It means only what they practice. That is classical music. So they come from a certain perception. And there's no right or wrong in this perception. It's a perception. So similarly, if you say classical music in India, I will give you another example. Why in India, I will tell you. You will find a lot of Hindustani musicians talking about Indian classical music. And when they say Indian classical music, they mean only Hindustani music, by the way. They don't by mistake even mean Carnatic music. So let's not even live in that illusion that they do. No. ये शास्त्रीय संगीत है, वो कर्नाटक संगीत है. No, what does that mean? That's a perception. That is a perception. I've read interviews from the most exposed Hindustani musicians still saying ये शास्त्रीय संगीत है और वो कर्नाटक संगीत है. So in some way there is a perception point, right? So you will always have that. But coming back to trying to put classical music together.
I actually want to continue my point. So when I say the classical, it's intended to taken up as a form which people invest time and effort to evolve into, keep evolving it. So which also connects to the point which you just said about the social strata.
Okay.
So for example, if you say that fisherman's song is folk, he does not have the time and resources to practice it and evolve it as a musical form. For him, it's just a peripheral to his occupation. But whereas classical music, being the intention being just to music is the intention, right? So it automatically goes to social strata, which has the.
You're saying it's connected. Does anybody disagree? Agree with it?
Then we're moving from utilitarian to.
That's what he's trying to say. In a way, what he's trying to say is that the music that is folk music has a utilitarian value. He's saying it has a value within a certain occupational, social construction that we have made. And I don't have the time to spend on the music only to move it away from any utilitarian value. So as it moves, if it has to move from there to being just music, it has to move across social strata, is what his perception is.
Or someone from the already who is in the
Higher strata has to pick it up and put it up.
About classical Indian, South Indian classical, the practitioners are not necessarily the appreciators, are probably from the higher strata. I don't think at least 50-60 years back the practitioners were considered as, I don't know about music, but dance specifically, not necessarily.
But the patterns were.
Yeah, so doesn't matter.
Once you perform for a pattern, you also kind of link your own fortune with the other.
Okay, I'm just going to.
If you are playing for Tanjavur Raja, his fortunes are intrinsically linked to yours. So he does well, you do well. And if he doesn't do well, that falls off, and classical music probably becomes folk music. And the evaluation stops. That's what I'm trying to say.
Don't you think that some of the folk musicians did it full time too? Like that's.
Yeah, they were very rare examples of that.
No, the only problem happens in your whole idea is what stuff like Telugu, for example. Now they are still belong to socially a lower strata, but it is a practiced art form. Okay, yes, it's connected to a temple and a religious thing, but even our kacheris are, if you look at it. But anyway, but the fact is, Telugu presentation is by itself a Telugu presentation. It is by itself. Okay, it tells a story, it has a dance, it has a music. It is not necessarily utilitarian in any specific fashion. The problem happens when you look at such a form. Then it is not moved up the strata. Nobody from the higher classes has picked it up and made it whatever. So there you cannot probably say this completely.
Array saving would be an example, right? Perhaps it is considered as.
Now is array say first of all an art, or is it only a religious expression? I don't know. I really don't know. I've only seen array say once, so I have not engaged with it as much for me to pass judgment on it. But I wonder whether you can put array save as an artistic form, or is it only an extension of a religious happening? Something I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not. What about the last one? Yeah, I won't ask him the question. I didn't say this. See, but I think there is one more aspect. There is one aspect over here that we cannot. I don't agree completely with this idea that the utilitarian value is the only value for art at social, at lower levels of society. I think it's probably a wrong perception to have that at lower level of society or socially lower level of society, if I may correct myself, that there is no perception of art. Okay, it will be quite a judgmental thing to, I think, place. I think, but it's also a fact that we accept something as being classical when it moves up the social ladder. That is also a fact. Now the same Sadir, which was Bharatanatyam, became accepted more, which is now Bharatanatyam, as it moved up a social strata. And nobody can ever disagree with that point of view, that's what happened with Bharatanatyam. That when it moved up the social strata, it became the epitome of classical dance of India. It is the classical dance of India today. And so, so we have to be, I think, a little careful when we try and box it. Now,
maybe you're making the same mistake as the Hindustani musician.
Exactly.
what is it?
This is the classical music.
Accepted. Hang on. It's not my perception. You go to any festival around the world, you read any review anywhere in the world, they will tell you Bharatanatyam is the dance of India. It is actually the face of India. The cultural, the traditional, accepted traditional cultural face of India is Bharatanatyam today. You can go anywhere in the world and they will recognize a Bharatanatyam dancer.
How is promoted?
I mean, that's, we're going a totally different direction, but that itself is a story. And we have two people connected with the Kalakshatra today here, so I'll be very careful about what I say. One there and one here, so I'll be very careful about saying anything in that direction because I need to stay alive by this evening. But
this concept of classicism is how old?
can I move? Yeah. Oh, can I move? Yeah, it'll come. Okay. So, in a way, all of us have, in a way, agreed that classical music is something about the music itself, something about an art expression by itself. So, which means we're talking about the intent of the music being the music itself. There is a word that is used for musical forms like this, which have been used. They call it art music. It's a word that has been used a lot of times, that these are called art music. Because the intent of the art is to create a piece of art. The intent is not social, the intent is not religious, but we will again come to battle with that when we talk about Carnatic music. There's a huge battle. We will talk about that battle. So, in a way, when we talk about Carnatic music, we are talking, in a way, if we want to place Carnatic music as a classical form, we are talking about a musical form which intent is the music itself. And all the parts of the music that go into it, its construction, its form, and finally its essence itself is itself. So when I make, just like I make an abstract sculpture, why do I make this sculpture? Because of the sculpture itself. Right? Just like that, what is Carnatic music? It is the music itself. Okay? So this is why I was coming from the detachment point of view, to try and look at Carnatic music. And with Carnatic music, it's very, very difficult to do this. And that is why I wanted to start with the premise of saying, can we detach this? Because we have detached it with all other things if you want to look at its construction. If you look at its history, and analyze the history, and be critical about it, and accept the criticism also.
Is this Carnatic music or is there more forms?
No, I'm saying any classical form can be. Some people even put jazz, for example. Though jazz has a social history, and jazz, as it is practiced today, a lot of scholars think jazz is also art music. Some scholars place jazz in the same category too. So the music is an art creation. It's a creation of art, and most classical musical forms, as we accept it, come into that category of being creation of art or creating art. So now we have to move from that position. And now, before we move, I just want to add two more things to this, and try and pick out from her word of the sense in this.
Before I move on, this thing that you just mentioned, the word critical engagement, I think that is also really important. It is
As
not
part of
possible
it.
without a detachment, because if you refuse to question just because you feel strongly about something, then I think
Or if you question with the premise of liking.
liking or not liking.
True, very true.
So I think that probably is.
That's also important. I agree. Yeah, definitely. Just two more points I would like to place here in terms of art music and Carnatic music also is one, I think another part of art music, art creations, is the fact that it is in its essence an abstraction. Okay? And what is it an abstraction of? That would be the logical question to ask, right? So whether it is melody, whether it is visual, it is abstracting something and placing it by itself. So whether you see Picasso, for example, or even if you see somebody who has painted a tree and a plant, there is something beyond the tree and the plant that exists in that painting. Right? There is a certain removing of that painting beyond the tree and the plant. That's what makes it art. And there are some scholars, some scientists who have called it an exaggeration. Okay? They use the word exaggeration, meaning that the mind exaggerates when it abstracts. In some cases, which I found interesting. They even related to to perception of human figures, for example. You see idols of figures through many cultures. There is always an exaggeration of so many things. For example, the hips of women is a classic example of an exaggeration. Many sculptures will exaggerate the hip, the bust, Okay, of course, let's not go into why that is being exaggerated, because that is a totally different field of discussion. But there is a fact that the moment you create a piece of art, there is a abstraction, an exaggeration, a removal from what is real here. Okay, so there is a suspension of something that is happening. Okay, this is very true of Carnatic music also, but with a lot of problems in Carnatic music. Okay, this is also, we should also keep that in mind. Then one more word I'll drop in there quickly. A delicate word is the word emotion, because then question of emotion comes, my emotion, my like. But a piece of art has emotion in its essence, but not your emotion or my emotion. It has in its essence an expression of emotion. A piece of art, whether it is music, whether it is sculpture, whether it is painting, has in its heart an emotion. Now, before you actually associate with your emotion, that first second when you look at a piece of art that makes you turn is not just the construction, but it is some essence. That's the word she used. But how does you experience that essence? You have to experience it through how all human beings experience. But you don't feel a like, dislike, hate, love, anger, happiness or sadness in that. But you still experience some emotion at that point. That is what is the emotion in that piece of work. Now where does that emotion come from? We'll discuss probably at some point in time. I just want to place this here. I would.
Would that also be the intent of the artist?
Very nice. I was hoping you won't get there, but I was hoping not to get there, but you got me there. Yes, in a way, when art is being created for itself, there is a quality that the artist is placing into that creation. This quality need not be the experience of the artist at the time of creating that painting. That's important to understand. No, I'm not even saying retrospective or anything. The artist is creating a world of emotions through the art. Right? Just like you create a world of so many things. You have the world of science, you have the world of mathematics. So there is an experiential world of emotion that we all have, right? So the artist is so what is an art ultimately? Why is it sensitive? So because it is creating itself a world of an emotive world. So in pure art, the artist is manifesting that emotive world for you. From that point, you move to the point of your emotion and your association. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm just placing it here. I don't want to get into the discussion because this will be 4 days. So I don't want to get into that discussion at this point in time. But I'm moving. Now Carnatic music is the biggest challenge. Because the way we have Carnatic music today gives us different signals. Right? Gives us very different signals and gives even musicians very different signals. Even it's a challenge for me. I really don't know how I should associate with this, how I should actually engage with this every time. It's a debate. I have my own intellectual upbringing, I have my own intellectualism, if I would like to place that. I have my own cultural problems, religious problems. All this being placed when I try to engage with that. So it is a challenge as much as it is a challenge for a listener, for an artist to engage with. Okay, so let's now look at first the idea of the raga, which is what I would like to talk about today completely. Because at the essence of Indian classical music lies raga. The essence of the biggest abstraction that is in Indian, of music in India is raga. It's probably what a beautiful abstraction. It has a history and it has a fact that it is changed to a large extent even today. So we have to look at that if you want to really understand Indian classical music at the basic level. So I'm going to quickly go through some words before we get to raga. Very popularly used words and see if you understand it.